So, welcome back everybody. Boys on Film talking about a new film today. It's The Ugly Stepsister, a Norwegian body horror, written and directed by Emilie Blichfeldt. It's the feature-length directorial debut for that director. And it also introduces Leah Myron and stars Thea Sophie Loch Ness. And it is a homage to Charles Perrault's Cinderella, which was first published in 1637. Chris here will tell you a lot about that because he was around when that was first published.
So rude. So rude. Well, what was interesting about being around at the time is that I managed to get you, the very old author at the time, to sign my copy of it.
Touche, crashy symbols. So the protagonist in the book, originally, a young girl living in forsaken circumstances who's suddenly blessed by a remarkable fortune with her ascension to the throne via marriage. So pretty much that story, Elvira, who's played by Leah Myron, has one all-consuming obsession. That's to win the affection of her kingdom's handsome prince and live happily ever after. Yet, she lives in the shadow of her beautiful stepsister Agnes, who seems fated for the happy ending she's always dreamed of, but in a kingdom where beauty is prized above all things. Elvira, who I think is pronounced as Elvira in this, because that's probably the proper pronunciation, she's going to get what she wants no matter what. Did you think that you were going to enjoy this? Because I know you love a horror film, you love a body horror, but this is kind of old world, isn't it, body horror? So it's obviously going back in time, and I didn't think you would be into it so much, but I'm glad you are.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the horror bits are really horrific, and they're not. It's not just the people chopping things off or bleeding and all that kind of stuff. There's just some horrific things that happen, some fairly sort of just some nasty things that happen along the way. But to be honest, the thing that I found most engaging about it was kind of, I mean, you know, I don't read nursery rhymes anymore because I've moved on to, you know, Enid Blyton and other stuff like that. But, you know, it's a long time since I've read any nursery rhymes and these kind of fairy tales and stuff. And I'd sort of basically forgotten the Cinderella story. I was just like, okay, I'm sure that I remembered some of the characters, but I couldn't really remember the ins and outs of everything. And I sat there for quite a lot of it, just kind of trying to work out, you know, how it related. And I just thought it was a really interesting retelling of the story, really, from some slightly different viewpoints. And, you know, kind of in a way, it's told in a very contemporary way, even though it's set in, you know, olden times.
Well, I was just going to say that because it works really well as a horror film, doesn't it, Cinderella, the story?
Well, it's a fairly horrific story when you think about the premise of it. You know, pushy stepmother is trying to get her daughter married off, and then there's some dealings between the sisters, and you know, the pretty one ends up not going because she ends up being a galley slave instead. And, you know, there's some, you know, some of that's pretty punchy adult stuff, really. I mean, it doesn't sound like it the way I've just described it, but, you know, if you were to write this down, that would be a pretty adult-themed story, really, in places. And this adaptation of it absolutely goes with that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because there is a lot of sex stuff in this as well. So, I mean, it's obviously because it's a horror film, you're going to expect something a bit more adult, but it's not just the horror. It's that other stuff that comes with it. I mean, I sent you a message saying, there's quite a few willies and bums in this. Can I just say, first of all, before we talk about any of that stuff, Leah Myron, who's obviously the protagonist here, she's not really an ugly actress. Because obviously she's playing the ugly stepsister, but she manages to pull some ugly faces brilliantly, but she's not actually ugly.
Philip, dear, isn't that the point? That beauty and ugliness are constructions in the viewer's mind, not in the person who is indeed ugly.
I agree, but I thought it was clever that because she wasn't ugly, she managed to make herself look ugly without trickery or any of that. You know, she played the part well.
Well, what I tell you what, no spoilers here, but I think she gets uglier, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And
oh god, yeah.
She gets physically uglier because of some things that she decides to do, but she's a pretty ugly sort of person, really, inside when you realise what she's up to and what she's allowing other people to encourage her to do. You know, that's all pretty ugly behaviour. So, she is the ugly stepsister, despite not looking, she looks totally fine. She looks absolutely fine, as you say. But, her behaviour is pretty ugly, I think. And what she gets up to is pretty ugly.
Were you doing this?
I did a lot of that. A lot of that was going on our sofa yesterday when we were watching this. There was a lot of, oh my God, they're not. And then they did. There was a lot of that going on. Yeah, I mean, the body horror stuff is grim. It's pretty gross, yes.
It is, but it's clever because I didn't expect gore and violence all the way through, but when the true horror comes, it's really well executed. They kind of imply a lot of things as well, which makes you wince more because you know what's happening. I mean, there's a nose scene. Do we need to spoil that? I mean, it's in the trailer.
Yeah, let's just leave it there. There's a nose scene. There's an eye scene. That's
oh my God. I see. I have more problems with the eye scene than the nose job. Yeah. The eyes.
I was doing this through both eyes, so yeah,
horrible. Just horrible.
There's some really, really unattractive vomiting that happens.
Oh God!
And then obviously the foot thing is nasty.
The foot. Oh God! I'd completely forgotten about that, and that's weird because that's. But that's funny, isn't it? Because the movie has a dark tone, but there is a lot of comedy in it. If you like that twisted humour, which I do, I found it quite lol-tastic.
Yeah, I mean, you tend to laugh at really sick, horrible violence because that's the kind of person you are.
Yeah, not real violence, though. I mean, I laugh at it on the screen because it's not really happening.
It's kind of, in a way, some of it's a bit sort of comic-y, isn't it? It's a bit kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, some of it's really quite nasty. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, this is not a fairy tale to sit down with your godchildren and your nieces and nephews to watch. Absolutely not. No.
It really isn't. And I know it's had comparisons to The Substance, which, story-wise, yes, there are comparisons there, but visually it's nothing like that in terms of production values. I think probably it's more Nosferatu meets Marie Antoinette or something.
I tell you what I thought is that it looks and sounds a bit like a film made in about 1984 as well. There's something about the soundtrack. It's very kind of Italo disco. It's very kind of electronic and but kind of sounds like it was made in someone's bedroom electronic. It's really appealing, I think. And also the colours and the lighting and stuff make it just, I think it's on fairly old film stock or something as well. So it has this kind of old feel about it.
Yeah, like The Company of Wolves.
Well, it's funny you should say that, yes, but I did think it was a bit like that at the beginning. But yeah, that soon went away, yes. I was worried it was going to be like that. And it wasn't.
Just for reference, we did review The Company of Wolves on a previous video a few months ago because we went to a special screening. Chris had never seen it, I had. I loved it, and Chris was not enamoured by it, were you?
No, it was rubbish.
Even though he got a free day out at the cinema.
Day out. It was a wet Sunday evening. It was miserable. Anyway, yeah, no, it's very well made, this film, because it's very fairy tale-y. It's very reminiscent of this kind of slightly fanciful sort of historic time, and yet it's got these kind of very contemporary themes in it. It could have been set now. It's kind of got these very similar modern themes in. So yeah, great.
Yeah, and the acting was really good as well, wasn't it? It's always difficult, isn't it, with the foreign language film, obviously that's subtitled. Sometimes you can't really tell if the acting is as good as you think it is, because I think language, obviously for it to be natural, you need to understand that language, I think, audibly.
Maybe. I think I genuinely think it works okay. I mean, it's subtitles are subtitles. You have to work around them, don't you?
Did you keep up with the subtitles?
I had the opposite problem. The problem with the subtitles, and this is really spotty, is that they were coming up before people spoke. So
yes,
you knew
I had that about 5 seconds. Yes. It was really annoying.
It was bothering me, but my dear husband thought that was fine. But no, I thought it was really irritating because you knew what was going to happen before it happened.
Yeah, it was like a spoiler, wasn't it, all the way through?
only like a couple of seconds or something, but yes, it was a bit. Wasn't
just a little gripe, because we're not griping the rest.
No, look, it's a very solid film actually, and you don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, like I say, if you've only got a very faint memory of the fairy tale, bits of it kind of come back to you, and the bits that come back to you then sort of get this sort of darker, more adult version of it, which is really successful, I think. Really, really good.
Now, do you want to give our viewers a visual clue of something that happens at the end without spoiling? An expression maybe of one of the characters that goes through something pretty traumatic?
Oh, so I thought that was the face you'd been pulling all the way through this review.
I'll do the other end and you do her side.
Wait, you want me to do acting? Oh, that?
Yeah, improv. Yeah, that's good. You've nailed it because it was genuinely horrific.
Yeah, that was nasty. That was nasty. Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that bit. I was thinking more about the bit with the big knife.
Her facial expressions again were contorted. I mean, a lot of that I'm guessing was effects, CGI.
I'd like to think the bit that you were just referencing, if that was real, then some people in Norway had some real digestive problems. Let's just say that was special effects, yes.
Hi, Phil and Chris, it's Paul here. Sorry that I couldn't join you for recording a review of The Ugly Stepsister. I'm on holiday in Sitges, as you can see behind me, but I'm just sending you some thoughts. I did watch the film, thought it was really entertaining, a dark, twisted sort of fairy tale, more brutal than we're used to in the Cinderella story. Quite a good subversion of that story, the main character being the stepsister rather than Cinderella herself. Quite gory, quite dark. Some of the body horror reminded me a bit of The Substance. Not as extreme, but same sense of what lengths someone will go to for supposed perfection. And quite a sadness to it as well. I really enjoyed it. I would give it 4 stars, if we're doing 4 stars. Doing still star ratings, so that's 4 out of 5. Yeah, definitely think it's worth seeing. Something about the aesthetic of it and the music was quite sort of early 80s or sort of late 70s. It's nice to see a horror film that doesn't use lots of editing and quick editing and kind of flashy technology. It looked like it was done quite simply, and I think that made it more effective. So yeah, there's my little review of The Ugly Stepsister. Alright, bye.
So star rating for The Ugly Stepsister, Chris.
Oh, it's so irritating that you won't give me half stars. I am going to go 4.
Yeah, me too. Would you have given it 4.5 then?
I would have given it 4.5, yes.
Yeah, I think I would have done as well. But I'm not going to because we're not allowed. I mean, I can't really set that precedent, can I? I can't, you know.
No, but we can say
myself.
that we would have given it 4.5.
Yeah.
It's a very strong 4. It's a very strong 4. It's let down by some sort of annoying little technical things like the subtitles, which do slightly spoil the story just because you don't want to read about it before it happens. You know, you want to see it happening.
I'm not sure if that. I mean, letting them off, I guess, in a way. If it is just the screener we were given, then that's fine. That's fair. Although,
maybe,
but when it's a press screener, you would want it to be pretty accurate.
There was actually a spelling mistake in one of the subtitles. Can't remember what it was now, but there was a spelling mistake.
That really bugs me when that happens. I get really anal about it.
It wasn't even grammar; it was actual spelling mistake. It was a word that was just wrong. But anyway, these are minor things, and actually, that's why I would have said 4.5 because actually my gripes with it are pretty minor, really. And I think it was it's a really good film. It kept us really engaged the whole way through. When it finished, we were both saying, "Oh my god, who can we tell to watch this? You know, this is we should get our friends to watch this because this is a great film."
Excellent.
Yours was a tweet, presumably.
No, he didn't want to see it.
No.
He doesn't like horror. Although I think he would have enjoyed it. Although the violent stuff he would have hated because I mean it's proper. Oh,
I watched all of that from behind my hand, so I wasn't even watching it.
I love it. If you're in America, by the way, you're going to be seeing this before us in the UK because it's out week before, 18th of April, here in the UK on the 25th. And yeah, I'm guessing it's going on to Shudder at some point because it's Vertigo releasing it in association with Shudder and IFC Films. So yeah, brilliant. Stomach churning.
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, there's this kind of, there's a slight lulling into false security because you kind of think, oh, this is Cinderella, I know the Cinderella story, which in my case I'd sort of half forgotten anyway. But you kind of think, oh, it's a little bit familiar, it can't be that awful, and then, it is.
Yeah. And we've got a special features vlog coming on Sunday, 11 a.m, which you've taken part in, although you didn't show off your records because we went to Record Store Day. I got mine here, which you can see
Getting
more
them
of.
out again.
No, I'm just teasing, edging.
Sorry, I felt my lunch coming back at me then.
And we've got a video up there, our last video that we did, because you haven't done anything for a while because you've been a bit rubbish.
I've been terribly busy and important.
Good to see you, Chris. See you on the next one.
Thank you.
Click on the video, everyone. Subscribe. What do people have to do, Chris? Like and subscribe.